Hello, and welcome to another session of virtual gentle chair yoga with Keith Beasley. My name is Batu Blumenthal. I'm the branch supervisor of the Putterham location of the Public Library of Brookline. Virtual gentle chair yoga with Keith Beasley is sponsored by the Friends of the Brookline Public Library, who sponsor this program and programs like it. As always, participation in this online yoga program could result in injury. Not all exercises presented here are suitable for everyone. These exercises are not intended to substitute for proper medical care or advice. Always consult your physician before beginning any exercise program. The creators, teachers, and producers assume no responsibility for injuries from participation in this program. And with that, I give you Keith.
Begin with the breath. So we always start with centering. And good posture. You could even do this laying down if you wanted to start. And thinking about feeling the belly moving. You could even do it standing for that matter if you wanted. The nice thing is to be able to extend the spine and to be able to relax the body and at the same time breathing fully. So feeling the belly moving in and out, perhaps resting the palms on the belly. Perhaps letting the eyes close if that is comfortable. So I'm really feeling the belly going in and out, either with the hands or just with a little practice, you can begin to feel the skin on the belly moving, the actual movement. Just like when we close our eyes and move other parts of the body, we don't always have to be looking at them, but we can feel them. And sometimes we do that. It's just we're so used to it. We do it naturally without thinking. And you might notice that the breath, after the belly fills, it moves up into the ribs a little bit. Maybe even starting to move up into the chest around the heart. The top of the lungs are all the way up here, near where the clavicle is. Right up here, there's the apex. The lungs are lobes. They're kind of pear-shaped. So the small part is up here, and then they extend down. You might feel the ribs moving in and out with the breath, and we're extending the spine. Go ahead and feel the feet pressing down gently into the floor. So there's a little bit of support that we get from the soles of the feet, and that helps extend the spine up. Relaxing the shoulders, softening the face and eyes. And you could do this anytime during your day for just a few minutes. When you get a little break, try just the breathing, the good posture, the softening of the body, and bringing the attention inwards. Sometimes that makes the things around us, when we go back to them, a little bit more palatable. It doesn't make up the problems go away, but maybe softens them a little bit. So this is like a meditation. And then we'll bring the palms together in front of the heart and sit up nice and tall. And then as you breathe in this time, let the hands float up, out, and around and down. And gently come together. So we'll add movement here. This circular movement with the arms, with the shoulders. Keeping the movement contained enough so that the shoulders feel stable. So for some people, that means that the circles will be small. or smaller. And for some people, the shoulders might feel okay, even if you make giant big circles. And the heart is lifting as we breathe in, as the arms are floating up, the sternum moves forward, the shoulder blades move slightly together. And then as it comes down, the shoulder blades spread apart slightly, and the hands float down. So imagine them floating. As you're breathing in, feel the feet pressing, feel the sitting bones pressing into the chair. So our support is underneath us, our connection to the earth, and then the hands are floating up with lightness towards the sky, towards the heavens, the stars. If it was nighttime, the stars would be there. Or we'd be able to see the stars, they're still there. And then the next time, bring the palms together and gently press the fingers. Could try moving the palm back and forth a little bit with some ease here. So we want to be able to do it with maybe 50% effort. So we notice that as we press and move the palm apart, we get a little more bending here in the backs of the fingers. And I want to do it without any pain or discomfort. And block, you could add your block here or something between the thighs. Even remember you've got it's almost the same size, your trusty tissue box between the thighs. It's just to engage the inner thighs, so we're not really squeezing too hard, just enough to activate the muscles here. And notice the tissue box is okay. I'm not squashing it. And then we're going to let the hands float down, and then turn the palms up and have them circling around. The movement here is timed with the breath. So the rhythm of this movement, actually the rhythm of most of the movements we do in our class, is timed with the breath. The rule of thumb in yoga practice is that we're inhaling on extensions of the spine and exhaling on flexion. So extension is is this where we lift the chest and the back is moving in the back direction like this. So flexion would be like a forward bend, is flexion like this. And there's a tendency to exhale, or there's the breath and the movement work facilitate each other when we are exhaling generally on the exhalation and inhaling on the inhalation. You also get that feeling of lifting, which is so nice when you inhale. That lifting feeling of the chest, the rising of the body, the lengthening of the spine. So we're gently pressing the feet down. And then as the feet press down, the sitting bones press, the spine extends up as we're inhaling. So everything's moving up. And there's a lightness that we get from that. And then as the hands come together and they flow down, there's a movement downwards, but still keeping the spine lengthened. And then there's the feeling of connection with the earth. So we alternate between the sky and the earth. See if you can feel that connection, the connection with the earth as the hands flow down. And then as the hands are rising up on the breath, the lightness, especially in the heart. Almost like you want to soar like a bird taking off. And the birds have been very good recently. It's been getting a little warmer. The birds, everybody's happier. The birds are happier. They're singing. It's nice. As we move out of the winter into spring. And spring is that time. So in yoga practice, think about how, and let's go from side to side here, leaning from side to side, starting with just lifting the heels. So think about it, people who originally did yoga practices, which started many, many years ago, would have been largely outside. If it originated in India, and so they were outside during all sorts of weather, cold, warm, and they had to get used to it. They had to get used to it. I don't know how easy that would have been here. Probably not. It's probably too cold here. And then we can add a little bit more if you want, if that feels comfortable. So we're starting to engage the belly here. So make sure, maybe put the hands on the belly for a moment and feel the firmness here. So pause for a moment, take a couple of breaths and feel a little bit softening of the belly, and then firming the belly by moving the navel back. So engaging moving the navel back is teaching these muscles to contract. And notice the lower back moves back a little bit, but doesn't round. It's not this. It's still sitting up tall, and it's more going towards a flatter back and less curve. And that's going to help. This stability from the core helps to stabilize the lower back. And that's what we want in our practice in general, in our life. We want stability in the core with mobility too. So we're leaning, and then you could add an arm too if you wanted. And it could even be the opposite arm. Or you could add two arms if you wanted. Be mindful of balance here. So as we begin to remove our supports, whether it's our hands, say on the arms of the chair, we've got to be mindful of our balance. And if you will go a little slower even, you'll notice that the balance becomes a little bit maybe more challenging, as does the keeping the core firm, but without being overly tense. If we begin to get too much work in the core, if we're not used to it, then the whole body tenses. The shoulders tense up, the arms tense up, and it's not a good experience. It also wears us out. So that's one of the things that's useful. And now let's bring the elbows by the ribs and turn the waist here. We're looking in our yoga practice to be fluid enough where there's some ease of movement, and therefore it requires a little bit less energy. So we don't get as tired from it. So we could go, we go for about an hour. So we can go for an hour, and at the end, we still maybe we feel like we've been working, but we don't feel really tired. We don't need to collapse at the end of yoga, hopefully. But if you do, it's okay too. You get used to it. And let's bring the hands up. We're going to lengthen the side of the body here, so the feet stay flat, and then we reach up. And think about lengthening from the hip up through the tips of the fingers. So the whole side of the body, the side waist, the ribs, the armpit, and even the arm extend up. See if you can feel that lengthening, just like we felt the skin on the belly moving with the breath earlier. See if you can feel that opening along here. Perhaps closing the eyes. Sometimes that helps us to feel things. We're not distracted by the eyes or by what we see. And then you can begin to move a little bit more. It's up first and then reaching to the side. Keeping that outside foot. So as I reach up and over, this foot wants to lift up like this. See if you can keep it glued down to the floor. So we're pressing that outside foot as the weight shifts into this, the other side. So we've got a connection here. You might even begin to feel the connectedness of the foot floating up to the fingertips. Or if your shoulders bother you, lifting the elbow like this, up to the elbow. and then coming back down. And let's rock the feet. So that was a little warm up. We warmed up the core of the body. We warmed up the shoulders a little bit. And now we're going to start to work the joints in the body. So joint movement is good for joints. Of course, as long as the movement is within the normal range of the joint. So be thoughtful about that. Always thinking about, if you feel any pressure or discomfort in a joint, you're probably overdoing it. And this is a place where if you wanted to, you could put your block back in, or your tissue box, or a rolled up towel. So my feet are lifting, or my heels and then balls of the feet are lifting. At the same time, think about lifting the heart up. So one of the things that we can do here to use the whole body together is, as the feet are rocking, as I'm inhaling, my heart is coming forward. And then as I'm exhaling, it's moving back. So there's a slight, notice the shoulder blades, I'll exaggerate. They're going like this. Inhaling and exhaling. And the breath and the movement of the heart are in sync with the movement of the feet. And it's hard to hold the block like that. So, and let's add the hands to it now. So now I've got the wrists going. So the nice thing about this is how that wrist joint is gently opening. So this is a extension and flexion of the wrist, almost like the wrist is doing a back bend here, and then it's doing a forward bend. And the same thing with the feet. So we're getting nice movement, nice contraction on the top and the front, and then on the bottom. And so one of the things that you can add, if you'd like, is some circling like this. Remembering we're still lifting the heart. So as you begin to combine these movements, in the beginning, you might only get two combined together, and that's okay. And then after a while, it becomes a little more, and then you can go the other way with the hands too. It becomes a little more second nature. The movements seem to work together. Just like when we, and let's come back and rest the feet on the floor. When we learned to walk many, many years ago, we didn't do that all at once. We learned things step by step, and then they came together naturally. So think about that, the same idea with our yoga practice. We do things step by step, and then we put them together. And let's lift and extend the leg here. Sliding to the back of the chair, perhaps, using the back of the chair for support. So I'm still keeping the spine lifted. My heart feels open and lifted, although I'm not leaning backwards here. I'm rising up, and my shoulder blades are touching the back of the chair. And this is where I can add the breath. So I'm inhaling up, exhaling down, inhaling up, exhaling down. So the feet are flexing. I should say the ankle is flexing here. And I want to keep my spine lifted. If you want a bigger challenge, don't use the back of the chair. Much more challenging. You really have to use the core to keep the spine lifted. And then you can start to add your other appendages. Beginning with just one. And then you'll have to experiment. We need to be able to keep the spine lifted, That's the most important things. Even if you're just doing one leg at a time and no arms, if that's what you need to keep the spine lifted, stay with that. And then over time, you can start to build more strength and begin to add stuff. But don't sacrifice your spine to be able to lift your arms up. And of course, you could always do perhaps 2 arms and a leg. And the most challenging is going to be 2 arms and 2 legs. Really focusing. So if you want to be more challenged, really focus on the abdomen, supporting the spine and stabilizing the lower back. If you're getting any pain in the lower back or discomfort, then please go back in the other direction until you get to a spot where there's no pain or discomfort in the lower back. We want to be nice to our lower back. We sit so much that we ask a lot of our lower back. And of course, in our yoga practice, we're never looking for pain. We're always looking to keep ourselves within a limit of no pain or real discomfort. Sometimes we get some stretching, and that's okay. Now let's slide forward in the chair and circle around. But we have to be kind to ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves in our yoga practice. It starts there. When we're kind to ourselves, it's easier to be kind to other people. And keep circling. And this is, so the first step is with the hands on the knees, and the feet are apart so that we have kind of a triangle shape here for support. So the sitting bones and the feet form a triangle, and that makes it very stable. If you need to, you could also slide the feet out a little bit away from underneath it. So the ankles underneath the knees or a little bit forward if you find you need support as you're leaning forward. You could slide forward in the chair to give yourself room to lean back. If you're leaning back, it's very important to be able to keep the spine lifted. So if you're leaning back like this, notice how I'm rounding, then that's, we don't want to do that. So we want to keep lifted and lean back. And that's where the core strength comes in. So when I begin to lean back, and let's try this, pause for a moment and just sit up nice and tall and rest the hands on the knees. And now begin to lean back a little bit. And notice how you have to use the belly, firm belly, to keep yourself extended and lifted. So that's what we want as we're circling. Don't sacrifice the spine. Now let's go the other way as we circle. So there's a real engagement as we're leaning back. The belly engages. As we come forward, it relaxes. The nice thing about the circling is that it really works all the whole, like as if we had this something around our whole lower body. So it works the muscles on the sides, the belly, and the back. And if you want to make it more challenging, of course, you can release the hands, whether it's small circles or larger circles or even larger circles. Keeping the spine lifted. Thinking about almost like we're going to float up out of the chair when we're doing this. So it's better to make smaller circles, be lifted here in the center, than it is to collapse. Even if you're making big circles, the collapsing, we want to avoid that. And let's come back down and sit up nice and tall. We're going to do some cactus breaths. Inhale. And exhale. You can give yourself a hug or not. So you have your choice. You can come back to prayer position, or the palms together. You could even progress. In the beginning, perhaps the hands are touching, and as things start to feel like they're moving, your wings begin to move more freely. They begin to flap with more ease. You can begin to hug yourself, perhaps starting down at the elbows and working your way up the arms. See if you can really feel the ease here. Like there's a gracefulness. There's a gracefulness with the arms and the breath flowing together, the spines extending up. Perhaps the chin lifts up slightly as you breathe in, as the hands come apart, as the arms open. You could even give a sigh as you exhale and give yourself a hug. And if you wanted to, you could even pause here or hold yourself and take a breath in. And inhaling. So we're inhaling as the arms are floating apart. Exhaling when they come together. So you have a lot of options. So we always want to find something that works for us, for our own anatomy and our own disposition and how we're feeling. Lifting the chin. Let's go up and down with the chin. As you lift up, think about extending the spine up and lifting the heart slightly. So there's a little bit of movement happening here, right where the heart is. If you wanted to, you could put your hand there. And you can feel as you lift the chin up, the heart or the chest naturally lifts up. And as you release the chin down, the chest and hand move down slightly. And let's tip the head. So the ear is coming closer to the shoulder. See if you can keep the nose pointed straight ahead. So if you had a little pointer on the tip of the nose, it would be almost as if the nose was pivoting. You could even put your finger there like this, and let your head pivot as if the nose is the pivot point. Of course, it's not exactly, because it's more like an arc here, but that's the idea. We want to keep the face pointed straight ahead rather than like dropping the face down or lifting it up. That would be something different. And if you wanted to, you could also take a little rest with the pillow, the hands, inhaling up, exhaling to the other side. And a couple more times. Inhale up, exhale. Inhale up and exhale. Really feeling the side of the neck, the shoulders. Maybe you might even feel it in the upper back on that side, relaxing and releasing. And one more on each side. That's what we want. We want the neck and shoulders and the upper spine to be relaxed. We want them to move freely. And then we're going to swish our nose from side to side. As if we were drawing something back and forth. And let's try the finger too. Let the finger and nose swish together from side to side. And then change hands if you're swishing your finger. We want freedom in the neck here. We're not turning super far. We are turning with ease here. And now let's try that opposite thing that we've been doing. where the finger is going to one side and the nose is going to the other. And when they cross, they're facing almost straight ahead. So that's the trick here, is to get the timing right. So that the hand and the nose, they're moving together, but in opposite directions. And let's switch hands here. It's almost like a pendulum on a clock, right? A pendulum goes bump, bump, bump. You could even try that. That's an interesting thing to do. Just letting, so now with the pendulum, of course, the elbow is kind of going back and forth. Hand is going back and forth, and the elbow stays in about the same spot. This actually feels a little easier for me to do. So I guess if you want more of a challenge, move the whole arm. Not as easy to maintain the rhythm this way. So you could start with the pendulum, and then as you start to get more connection between the head, their neck, and the arm moving, you could try going to the other one. And sitting up nice and tall, we're going to circle, always thinking about sitting up tall, as if we're drawing with the tip of our nose some circles or a spiral. Let's start small and get bigger. And then going back the other way. So we're starting big now and getting smaller. Spiraling in. Now let's roll the shoulders. So this would be a place, if you wanted, if you're so inclined to standing, you could do this standing. So you get your choice here. If you prefer to stay seated, please stay seated. But you get your choice here. The movement's really similar. The shape of the body's a little different. But this rolling, this backstroke that we get here, and then the crawl stroke is forward. So we'll start out straight ahead first with the hands. So go straight, and then begin to cross the body and go down the other side. So if you're a swimmer, this might be more real. When we swim, the hand crosses, goes to the opposite hip. And of course, it's the same if I'm seated, not really so different. And let's work on, so let's see. So let's do the elbows, actually. We're going to extend the arms like this, palms up, and touch the shoulders. And again, you could do this standing or seated. We're going to keep bending the elbows and at the same time raising them slowly. Think about when you go to jack up a car and it's continuing to do this. And sometimes it takes a really long time to go only a little distance. But we're slowly, the elbows are now higher and they're still bending like this. And then the elbows begin to start to go down until they get down towards the bottom again. And we're going to do a little chest opener with some breathing. So starting with your hand position here, you have a lot of options. You could do it with the hands on the waist like this, with the elbows moving back. So notice when I move the elbows back, the heart lifts and opens. And sometimes the belly sticks out, so you may need to firm the belly up here so it moves back in and supports the lower spine. Also the buttocks. So we get some firmness, like as we do in mountain pose, we get firmness in these 3 different muscle groups that stabilize the pelvis. So the waist, you could even put the hands on the buttocks like this. I'm going to turn around, pardon my back, with the fingers pointing down ideally, but most importantly, being comfortable. So if the wrists aren't comfortable here, try this. The other choice is interlacing the fingers like this. Interlacing the fingers, making sure that you can relax the shoulders. And the other choice could be holding the elbows like this. Some people may be able to actually put their palms together like this. I can't really do that, but if you can and you want to, feel free. But find something that's most comfortable. I as a general rule, I like to interlace my fingers like this because they're not, my hands stay together without too much effort. My shoulders move back without really any effort because of the weight of the arms pulling them open. And the heart's easy to lift. Then I can just concentrate on extending the spine and keeping the belly firm. And taking a few breaths. So this is a great way to counteract if you have to sit at the computer for a while. Go ahead and when you get a break, bring your hands behind you or bring your hands to the side and open the chest and just stay for some breaths, whether it's 3 or 4 or whether it's 10, or you want to stay like this for a minute or 2. Focusing on the breath, relaxing the shoulders down, softening the face and eyes. Extending the spine up and lengthening the back of the neck here. So the back of the neck is lengthening, but there's still a curve in it. There's still a curve. Sometimes there's a tendency for us to be like this because we lean forward as we sit. And then we want to lengthen the back of the neck. So the hands might even be softening and moving down a little bit. So over time, instead of being up here, they begin to just slide down as the shoulders release. And let's swing the arms. We want the legs springy if we're standing. So the knees are soft here. And we want to be stable. So depending on how you're feeling, you might want to spread the feet a little wider apart. But there's a softness, even though the different groups of muscles are working, there's a softness in the movement. We call this coat sleeves, like we're put a coat on without the arms and the sleeves, and we're just swinging the sleeves. You might even feel the hands gently tapping, or even the palms. The palms sort of give a little gentle tap as the hands swing up. You might also notice that the hands, the kidneys are back here. The kidneys are down right about here, I think. That as you swing the hands, it taps the kidneys. It's supposed to be good, a little patting of the kidneys. But it's not hurting, and the slapping is gentle. So, and let's stand up nice and tall, or sit up nice and tall. And we're going to do tree pose. So tree pose is useful to focus the mind. Balancing poses are a way to really cause us to pay attention closely. Otherwise, we would fall over. And sitting up tall, In our mountain pose, I'll show it seated and then standing, but you're welcome to do it either way. Both, we'll do it twice, both times seated or standing, or you can alternate. Sitting up tall and then stepping the foot out and bringing the sole of the foot on the inside of the chair leg. And sitting up tall, lengthening. Think a little more about lengthening the side of the body that doesn't have the leg out to the side. And then you can add your hands. Prayer position, extended, arms over the head. We want to keep the shoulders relaxed. The face and eyes are soft. And feel some lightness here. Press that, whether you're standing or seated, press that straight leg or the one that's still facing the front. Press the sole of that foot down into the floor. So that's our support. That's our support. And notice how when we press that down, the sitting bone on the same side is activated, and then extending the spine up, lengthening the spine up, and breathing. You can come down whenever you want. And if you're standing and you step down from the pose, you can always come back in. You don't have to stay up the whole time. A drishti point is helpful for balance. So focusing the gaze on something that won't move keeps the mind from drifting. And then whenever you're ready, you can let the arms float down. And then come back to mountain pose. So drishti point is a focal point of concentration. A lot of times we lose our balance, not because of physical reasons, but we lose our concentration, our mental concentration, and that causes us to lose our balance. So sitting up nice and tall, and then we'll do the other side. So stepping the other foot out, and sole of the foot comes to the inside of the chair leg or the inside of the calf if you were standing. And the torso is facing straight ahead. So we're pressing down into that foot into the floor, sole of the foot into the floor as we extend up, and then we can add the arms in whatever position you want. We're comfortable in tree pose. Remember to breathe here. Focus on your drishti point and feel the breath. Feel the spine extending. Feel the sole of the foot pressing down. The leg is extending up. It's lengthening. The spine is lengthening. And there's a lightness that we get, a gracefulness, just like a tree. And whenever you're ready, you can slowly lower the hands down. And then come back to mountain pose, sit up nice and tall. And let's do the other side. So I'll do it this time standing, but you're welcome to do it again seated. Remember, we're focusing on the breath and extending the spine. It doesn't matter if it's seated or standing. Do those things and you feel the lightness and you feel the balance. And we'll step the foot out. So now the weight, if I pat this leg, if I'm standing, I have a straight leg, I pat the leg, the thigh is active here. The buttocks is active behind me. And then I can bring the sole of the foot here. And then extending the spine, up, lifting the heart, breathing in and extending the arms. Find that drishti point. It's okay if you need to step down. It's okay. We've also got our chairs. So feel free to even rest your fingertips on a chair. Remember to breathe. Perhaps your tree is the home for one of the birds that we've been hearing. And then come on down. So a tree is like it's like a home. There's animals and little animals, insects that live in it, sitting or standing up nice and tall, lifting the heart. We'll do the other side. Step the foot out, pressing the sole of the foot down into the floor for support, extending up through the leg, up through the spine, bringing the sole of the other foot. And then go ahead and adding the arms, however you want. Extending the spine up. Feel some lightness as the leg extends, the spine extends, lifts up, the heart lifts up. The shoulders relax. The eyes are soft, even though we're looking at a drishti point. Eyes are still soft. Finding that balance of ease and effort here. And then slowly, whenever you're ready, you can come down, lower down, stand up nice and tall. Let's swing. Swing the arms again. Oh, give a little sigh. Let's work on chair pose for a minute. So we can start, if you know chair pose and you want to do it standing, you're welcome to do that. We're going to do it first seated with the idea that we are training these different muscle groups to engage as if we were going to stand up from a chair or sit down into a chair if we're standing. So I start to lean forward and need to position the feet so that I can start to get the weight over the feet. So this is something that, as if you were going to stand up, you do this without thinking. But in this position, we want to start to lean forward. Notice how the spine is still lengthened, or I'm not rounded like this anyway. Don't let your spine round, don't collapse. But as you begin to lean forward, it's as if there's a hinge at the hip, or right where the top of the leg meets the torso, because the hip's actually back here. But there's a hinge here in the front. If you wanted to, you could put your fingertips at your hinge right here like this. So where the hip bone is, so you find the front of the pelvis is right here. And I'm going to hinge there. Let's actually try that first. I'm going to hinge there and then come back up. Engaging the belly here a little bit. So we want the navel to move in slightly, not super hard, but we want it to be active. We want the belly to be active here. And so the action is starting to lean forward. As we begin to get over the feet, we press the feet down, and it can be nice to rest the palms on the knees and begin to lift the buttocks just out of the chair just for a moment, and then go back down. Make it an even lift, left and right side. So as I begin to lift, the quadriceps are working, the buttocks are working, and the belly. They're stabilizing this area so that as I lift up, there's the spine is lengthened, so it's not bending. And so I start just by lifting up a little bit. You might even just begin to come over the feet. So if it's hard to get lifted, get the buttocks out of the chair, just come over the feet, press the feet down, bring the navel in, and press and lift slightly. To get the feeling of lifting, you could also sit on something, or it makes it a little bit easier to lift up. So go ahead, and if you add some height here, it's easier to lift up like that. And add as much height as you need. Eventually, you'll get to the point where if you add enough height, you'll be able to lift off a little bit. And that's how we learn to do this. We learn to engage these muscles so that we can lift off. And even if you can stand up from a chair normally, a lot of times we do it in an we kind of use the hands, or we lean to the left or to the right. One side tends to be stronger than the other, so we rely on that more. So that's the first step, is this leaning forward. So keep trying that. If you need to, just pause and rest for a few breaths, and then try one or two more, or maybe three. And over time, over a week or 2 weeks, if you do it regularly, maybe every week add a couple. So the first week you might do a few sets, maybe 3 sets of 2 or 3. And then the next week you add 1 or 2, and you do 2 or 3 sets of say 4, and then maybe 6. And then over time, the strength builds and it gets easier. So that's the first part. So continue with that first part. The second part is, if you were standing, the same idea. We're working to sit down with engagement of the quadriceps, the buttocks, feel them moving together. So you want these buttocks to, the gluteal muscles here, to be firm. The belly is moving in, and the weight is even on the feet. There's a tendency sometimes to lean one way or the other. See if you can actually feel the feet being even, and the knees are in. So this could be a place where a block is handy. Holding the block halfway between the knees and the groin. So the inner thighs are gently squeezing the block, and that helps to stabilize it. So it adds another layer of stability. So we've got the muscles in the front of the thighs, the inner thighs, the gluteal muscles, and the belly, all helping as we begin to bend the knees slightly. We want to keep the knees back behind the toes. So we don't want to go forward with the knees like this. We want the knees, it's more like where the buttocks is dropping down. And this is where that maintaining the curve here and the stability comes in. And without any pain or discomfort. If you're getting back pain or discomfort, don't go down as much. Find a spot where you can begin to bend the knees without the discomfort, and work on strengthening these areas. And as you strengthen them, you can go down, you'll be able to work to go down further. It takes a while. And once you can start to do this with some ease, as you come down, you can feel the spine extending up. You can feel some lightness here in the upper part of the body. Also have to be mindful of balance here. The weight begins to shift back into the heels as you come down. So be thoughtful about balance. Keep a chair behind you. You could even work with a wall behind you. And that way, if you begin to come down, actually, that's another way that you can practice, is to actually come near the wall and then begin to gently slide down the wall. So the back of the right here where the buttocks is gently touching the wall. It's a nice way to practice. And now let's sit down and sit up nice and tall. And we're going to do a few sun breaths here. So inhaling, starting with just the belly moving forward and back. So this is a little pelvic tilting. Notice if there's a little more movement here in the pelvis after the practice. So pelvic rocking is this movement of those front hip bones back and then forward. You might notice the sitting bones underneath, just like we were rocking the bottoms of the feet like this. See if you can feel the bottoms of the sitting bones at the base of the pelvis in your chair. If your chair is really soft, you probably won't be able to. But this chair is wooden, so I can feel my sitting bones there. Of course, we don't want the chair to be so hard that it hurts. And we're going to add some sun breaths to it. And the sun happens to be coming out now. Yay. And notice if it's any easier, if the movement feels more graceful, if the shoulders feel more open, especially the thoracic spine, the spine that's right between the shoulder blades behind you. Some ease of movement here. And then bringing the palms together and then going the other way. And let's go ahead and find our final relaxation, which you could do seated in a chair, or you could even do it laying down if you're familiar with that. If you're laying down, you want a nice even surface and a firm enough surface so that the body stays in an even plane. And the arms are out at about 45 degrees and the legs are out at about 45 degrees. So you kind of look like this if you're seated. I'm sorry, if you're laying down. If you're seated, the hands are somewhere probably in your lap or on your legs, and the feet are about maybe a little more than hip width. We don't want them too wide though. But the most important thing is to be comfortable in a seated position. And this really becomes like a meditation position as well. Feeling the belly moving in and out. So letting the breath soften here and relax and release. No need to even change it. Just feel the breath, a full inhalation and a full exhalation. Relaxing the face and eyes. Releasing the jaw. Softening the tongue. Softening the throat. Relaxing the back of the neck. The shoulders. Releasing the arms, the hands and fingers. Relaxing the shoulder blades, the middle back, the lower back. Letting go of the collarbones. Softening the heart and chest. Relaxing the ribs and the belly. Relaxing the hips and the buttocks and the groins. Softening the legs, the thighs, the knees, the shins and calves. And finally, relaxing the feet. The soles of the feet, tops of the feet, and all the toes, from the big toe all the way out to the little toes. And each time we breathe in, there's a lightness, and each time we exhale, we allow the body to soften a little more. As the body softens, the mind begins to soften. And that'll complete our class for today. So I hope everyone has a good weekend. Namaste. Thank you for practicing. Thank you for your hard work. Namaste.